All right, welcome back to the channel. Errol Spence Jr. finally comes out and says it, something that I thought he was referring to last week, but he blasts Manny Pacquiao because he now sees what exactly people have been saying. I've been saying since the fight happened, which is that Manny Pacquiao never had any interest whatsoever in fighting Errol Spence Jr. In fact, Manny Pacquiao has no interest in fighting Terence Crawford either. He's looking for easy paydays to make a lot of money. And what he is doing with Mikey Garcia, or rumored to be doing with Mikey Garcia, dog, that just proves it. So let's talk about that and what Errol Spence Jr. had to say about it in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So today, before we get into the video, but what the video is going to be about is Manny Pacquiao and the fact that he never had any interest in fighting Errol Spence Jr. He's not going to have any interest in fighting Terence Crawford. The media is not going to push him to do it. And as a result, it's my opinion that if Manny Pacquiao is not going to be serious about fighting top level fighters, then Manny Pacquiao just needs to go away. Like anybody else that would do that same thing. And Errol Spence Jr. released a tweet where he basically said that now he sees what the deal is, that Manny Pacquiao came to his fight to fight when he fought Mikey Garcia, and he wanted to shake Mikey Garcia's hand after Mikey Garcia beat him. But if Errol Spence Jr. was winning the fight, Manny Pacquiao didn't have any intent on fighting him. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, and I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you all the necessary facts to support what I'm saying, to support what Errol Spence Jr. is saying. And then we're also going to talk about what this means for the sport of boxing. And I usually do what do we do? Like 4 videos a day. And I record them all around this same time. So, but today there's a theme, across the videos. And this one, dude, is just, boxing building, trying to construct champions and trying to build people's careers. Man, it really does wind up stealing a lot from boxing fans because these promoters are trying to, manipulate everybody into seeing the world of boxing the way that they want it to be seen. And that way that they want you to see it just so happens to make them a lot of money. So we're going to go through that, and I'm going to go through that same theme in multiple videos today. We got one coming up about Canelo, about Eddie Hearn and Jamal Charlo that covers the same theme. There's also, Gervonta Davis and what's going on with him and Floyd Mayweather Jr. A lot of similarities then. And also Ring Magazine says some banana stuff, dude, about Paulie Malignaggi. So, I'm going to do all of these videos. I mean, we're going to have all these conversations today and also on the live stream. So just stay tuned and watch them. Listen to the videos all the way through. Now, getting into this. Before I do, though, thank you so much for showing up to the channel and watching another video. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, thank you to everybody that supports in the Patreon and everybody that supports as a channel member and in the live streams. All right, so Errol Spence Jr. is the WBC and the IBF champion of the world. Manny Pacquiao is the WBA Super 147-pound champion of the world. Terence Crawford is the WBO 147-pound champion of the world, right? How you can be champion of the world with, 3 different champions of the world. Hey, man, only in boxing. You know what I mean? So Errol Spence Jr. tweets, and he says, oh, man, I'm not going to give you can go to his tweet and pull out the exact tweet. But basically what he says is, Manny Pacquiao, now he sees what Manny Pacquiao was trying to do when Manny Pacquiao went to go see Errol Spence Jr. fight Mikey Garcia. And that fight happened in Texas, right? Where Errol Spence Jr. fought Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia was moving up in weight. He said he saw something out of Errol Spence Jr. and he was going to beat Errol Spence Jr., right? They fought in Dallas in front of like 50,000 people. It was a pay-per-view event. Errol Spence Jr.'s first pay-per-view event did like 350,000 pay-per-view buys. Big success all the way around. Manny Pacquiao sitting in the seat watching it, right? Because Manny Pacquiao had just signed, he had signed with the PBC. I think that might have been after the time that he fought Adrian Bronner. So Manny Pacquiao's sitting in the audience, and we're thinking, okay, Manny Pacquiao's there because Manny Pacquiao was going to fight whoever the winner is, right? Because the winner was, was the IBF champion. So Manny Pacquiao's going to be looking for a championship belt. He's there at this championship fight. That's the fight that he's going to take. No. What Manny Pacquiao winds up doing is Manny Pacquiao winds up fighting Keith Thurman for the WBA belt and leaving Errol Spence Jr. alone. Now, Manny Pacquiao, it is rumored that Manny Pacquiao is setting up a fight with Mikey Garcia, right? So what does that tell you? That Manny Pacquiao wanted to fight Mikey Garcia to begin with. That if Mikey Garcia had beaten Errol Spence Jr., or maybe if it looked like it was a competitive fight and Mikey Garcia would expose some type of weakness in Errol Spence Jr., that then Manny Pacquiao would have taken that. Manny Pacquiao was going to take that fight, but he was not going to take that fight if Errol Spence Jr. looked dominant. So he went the soft route, which was Keith Thurman. Now, Keith Thurman is not a bad fighter, obviously, but he's coming off of a 2-year layoff, and he did have what I believe Manny Pacquiao was looking for out of Errol Spence Jr., which was a subpar performance with Josito Lopez. One that said, oh man, if Josito Lopez can do that to Keith Thurman, I can beat Keith Thurman, right? So if Mikey Garcia had any reasonable amount of success with Errol Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao could have said, oh, well, that's just Mikey Garcia. I know I can do something better against Errol Spence Jr. And then he would have fought Errol Spence Jr. trying to take advantage of the holes that were exposed by Mikey Garcia. But since there were no holes exposed, and in fact, it just showed an entirely different part to Errol Spence Jr.'s game, which is that Errol Spence Jr. can box from the outside. He's an Olympic quarterfinalist. He's won multiple national championships in the amateurs. The guy can box. So Manny Pacquiao wanted no part of it, right? So Errol Spence Jr. is calling him out for that. Now, also in the same breath, right? Now, I didn't do a separate video for this, but I'm gonna put it in here. I read an article that was up on Boxing Scene, and there's a media guy or a writer, boxing writer that writes for Boxing Scene. Excuse me. I'm going real fast today because Starbucks is for you. So anyway, they write in this Boxing Scene article that Manny Pacquiao should not fight Keith Thurman. Should not fight Terence Crawford. That's a bad decision for his career, right? So combine the two. You have Manny Pacquiao, who is deciding to take the soft touch with the big name Mikey Garcia over a unification fight with Errol Spence Jr., right? On one hand, and then you have the boxing media actively asking Manny Pacquiao not to fight the other champion in the welterweight division, Terence Crawford. That's what you see. Now, that's why I'm telling you in this video that I'm doing a series of videos on this, because I wanted to point this issue that takes place in boxing. Now, Ring Magazine said black fighters are no longer dominant, right? Paulie Malignaggi said it. Dougie Fisher, backed him up, even though he did the necessary, separation from a lot of the topics that Paulie Malignaggi brought up in his ridiculous ass tirade. However, Ring Magazine rode with the idea that boxing is not as black as it used to be when Dougie Fisher, who was the editor in chief for Ring Magazine, when he first started, his job or started paying close attention to boxing, right? Which has been a long time. I've been a long time reader of Dougie Fisher. So he's been around a long time. That's what he says. Now, think about this. Over a long period of time, if champions decide that they're not going to fight the toughest competition, and the media backs them up on that, when exactly will the fighters that Manny Pacquiao decided not to fight ever get to the point where they're considered to be dominant fighters if the media and promoters are actively keeping fighters away from them? They will never have the opportunity to be seen as a dominant fighter because they will never get the opportunity. And that's what we have seen throughout boxing consistently through the history of boxing. But since the fall off of Don King, you see it even more. You see it more now. The PBC has a lot of those fighters and are getting those fighters a lot of shots at titles and a lot of titles, but the boxing media is not responding by giving these people their credit. And so that's why I got to screw Manny Pacquiao with this. And Manny Pacquiao is going to run around and, presenting himself as a world champion fighter and a top fighter and one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best fighters in history. Then, dude, act like it and fight the guys that are champions in your weight division. If you're not going to fight the other guys who are champions in your weight division, you're a fraud. Just like Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is an example of a dominant fighter that is fighting nobody in his own weight division and staying as far away from his competition as he possibly can. That and then the boxing media and certain groups of fans want to use Canelo Alvarez's refusal to man up and fight the guys he's supposed to fight with it being somehow the fault of the guys that he's ducking and evidence that the communities that the fighters that are being ducked come from are somehow losing their ability to compete effectively in the sport of boxing. And that's a bunch of hogwash. So anyway, that's my take on the situation, dude. Manny Pacquiao need to retire or man up, period. Fight Errol Spence Jr., fight Terence Crawford, but this Mikey Garcia, I'm going to beat Mikey Garcia, another, multiple weight division world champion. Mikey Garcia is 1-1 in the welterweight division, and the dude 1-1 in the welterweight division, and one of those fights, and actually the accumulation of the fights, he might have lost more rounds than he actually won. It's because he lost 12 straight rounds. 12 straight rounds in his one welterweight fight. And if you give Jesse Vargas 2 rounds of that fight that they had, that tells you that Mikey Garcia has lost more rounds at welterweight than he's won, but yet is going to be posed to fight Manny Pacquiao and get his shot to get back in the pound for pound. Man, get out of here. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.